Welcome, sleepy soul. I'm your storyteller tonight, here to help you drift into deep, peaceful sleep. Before we begin, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more bedtime stories. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is, and if there's a story you'd like to hear next, I'd love to know that too. I never thought the smallest things could turn a place like Walmart into a nightmare. Working the night shift there was supposed to be simple: restock shelves, help the rare latecomers, keep the store from falling apart while everyone else slept. But that October, something changed. The air itself seemed heavier, charged, waiting. One evening, just past midnight, a peculiar customer wandered in. She looked like she belonged to another time. Old-fashioned coat, worn boots, and dark eyes peering quietly under a battered hat. She didn't look at me or speak. She didn't grab a cart. Instead, she moved slowly through the aisles, barely touching anything. I first noticed her in the seasonal section, standing still beneath the dim Halloween decorations. The flickering orange lights cast sharp shadows across her pale face. Her eyes weren't scanning products or searching price tags. They were fixed somewhere deep inside, like she was listening to a voice only she could hear. Curiosity won over caution, so I approached. "Can I help you find something?" I asked gently. No response. Just silence. I watched her drift past the toys, then the candy aisle, where the usual cheerful displays looked strangely faded and hollow under the cold fluorescent lights. Suddenly, the overhead lights flickered and dimmed, plunging the aisle into unsettling half-darkness. A low hum buzzed beneath the usual store noise, barely audible, like distant whispered conversations just out of reach. I felt my skin prickle and took a step backward. That's when I noticed the shelves around her, products knocked over, cans slightly twisted, as if something invisible had brushed past them. No carts or hands to explain it. I called out again. "Ma'am?" She turned slowly, and I caught a glimpse of her eyes, wide, black, with no reflection, like endless pits staring right at me. A sudden shiver tore through me. Are you okay?" Without warning, she vanished. The lights flickered back to full, and the aisle was empty. No sign of where she'd gone. I rubbed my eyes, wondering if I'd imagined it. When I checked the security feeds, the cameras caught her silhouette wandering silently, but then the footage distorted, colors twisting and melting into static as she disappeared right before the camera's view. I tried to shake it off and return to my stalking, but the store was changing. My radio crackled with static, whispering strange words, soft and distorted. "Leave, leave, soon." Shadows shifted oddly in the corners of my vision, and cold spots followed me down aisles like unseen footprints. Halfway through the shift, the emergency exit alarm shrieked once. I ran and found the door locked firmly. No sign of an intruder. Later, a basket filled with random items, candy, batteries, expired canned food, rolled slowly down aisle 5 without any push. The quiet hum of refrigerators grew louder, then suddenly stopped. A frozen, dead silence filled the air. Frozen fruits in the glass cases flickered in and out of focus. For a split second, I thought I saw faces pressed against the inside of the glass, pale, desperate, mouths opening to scream. Heart pounding, I backed away. At long last, the early morning light leaked in through the front windows, and the heaviness lifted, replaced by haunting emptiness. That night, I quit. I never told anyone what I saw. The official report said nothing unusual happened, just a power surge and some static on the radios. But sometimes, as I drive past that Walmart in the dark, I look at the windows and swear I see her, the woman with empty eyes, standing beneath the flickering Halloween lights, waiting for the night to swallow the store whole again. It was the kind of night where the world outside felt bigger and darker, and the Walmart on the corner of Airport Road seemed to hold its own secrets beneath the flickering fluorescent bulbs. I worked the closing shift there, alone past midnight, mostly restocking aisles and watching the rarely moving shadows that stretched long across the linoleum floor. That night started like any other. Customers, or rather, the ghostly few who lingered that late, floated quietly through the empty aisles, pushing their carts like slow-moving specters. The store's overhead hum was broken only by the faint squeak of a cartwheel or the distant beep of a scanner from the checkout in the distance. About an hour into my shift, while stocking canned goods on aisle 7, I noticed someone watching me from the snack aisle. At first, I thought it was just another worn-out shopper, but the way he stood, still as a mannequin, eyes fixed on me, rattled my nerves. He was an older man, ragged beard, camo jacket hanging off his thin frame. He looked like he'd wandered in from nowhere, his face gaunt and pale, shadows under his eyes sharper than the store's fluorescent glare. I said hello, quietly, and he gave no reaction. Just stared. It wasn't until I was halfway down the aisle that I realized his gaze followed me like a predator tracking prey. Trying to shake the unease, I pushed on, but the atmosphere seemed to thicken. The usual sterile Walmart smell was mixed now with something sour, like rotten fruit left forgotten in a dark corner. Near the frozen foods, I caught a glimpse of movement out of the corner of my eye. Nothing there when I turned, but the cold draft brushing past my neck was unmistakable. The lights flickered briefly, a common glitch, and suddenly I was plunged into a thin veil of darkness. When they buzzed back on, the man was gone. Or so I thought. Then there were the sounds. Not the usual creaks or hums, but muffled whispers echoing faintly between aisles. I froze, listening, but could make out no words, just a low, sad wailing under the store's usual white noise. I hurried to the break room for a sip of water, making a mental note to check security cameras. That's when I heard it, the slow, deliberate tapping of shoes in the frozen food aisle far behind me. Slow, steady, like footsteps pacing just beyond the reach of the store cameras. "Hello?" I called out, trying to sound confident. No answer, only that tapping. I felt my pulse quicken and backed away slowly, heart in my throat. On the security feed, the cameras showed eerie static at the frozen food aisle. The feed flickered, then a shadowy figure appeared, standing unmoving in front of the glass doors of the freezers. No face visible, only a vague shape darker than the shadowy corners surrounding him. Suddenly, the figure moved, and with unnatural speed, vanished from the camera's view. Meanwhile, the intercom crackled to life with a faint whisper, a garbled, unintelligible voice speaking just beneath the volume of hearing. My skin crawled as it repeated softly, "You never should have stayed." I dropped the intercom button hard and ran to the back entrance to exit, but the door, normally unlocked at night, was sealed tight. No windows, no cameras monitoring that side. My phone was dead. Trapped inside with that invisible presence stalking the aisles, I raced through the dark corridors. The tapping followed, slower now, but steady. I passed the snack aisle again, and the camo-jacketed man was there once more, his eyes glowing faintly red beneath the dim store lights. His mouth slowly pulled into a sinister, sharp grin, showing teeth too large and white, like a predator smiling before the kill. My scream died in my throat. The lights flickered once more and the man disappeared. But the tapping remained, closing in. I finally found the janitor's closet, slammed the door shut, and barricaded it with a mop and bucket. Heart pounding, I pressed my back against the cold metal door, trying to breathe. Minutes crawled by. Then nothing. No tapping, no whispers, no scoffing breath in the cold air. I risked a peek outside and saw the aisle clear, empty. I didn't dare move until dawn. When morning's first light broke through the parking lot windows, the front doors unlocking suddenly felt like salvation. I never went back to that Walmart night shift, but sometimes, late at night, when I'm home with all the doors locked, I swear I still hear the soft tapping of footsteps sneaking just beyond the edge of light, waiting. The night shift at Walmart hadn't been the plan. I'd just come back to town after some time away, and the job was an easy way to fill time and make a few bucks. The local store was the kind of place you passed by without a second thought in the daytime, but at night it felt quieter, emptier, larger somehow. I never expected it to be a place where something could fester. My first few shifts were smooth. The thrumming fluorescent lights, the soft hum of fridges, and the way the quiet stretched across empty aisles like a blanket became strangely comforting. The regular wave of late-night customers were polite, mostly tired, some lonely like me. One night, a little past midnight, a woman walked in. I hardly noticed her at first. She looked worn down. A long coat covered her frame like she'd been out in the cold for hours. But it was the cart she pushed that caught my eye. It was crammed full, but not with groceries. It was stuffed with various odd, random items. Boxes of cheap candy, expired canned goods, broken electronics. She didn't seem like she was shopping normally. Instead, she moved from aisle to aisle, touching items lightly, as if searching for something hidden. When I tried to greet her, her eyes shot up, wild and unfocused, and her lips parted, but no words came out. Hours passed, and she stayed. I kept an eye on her from the customer service desk. Sometimes she'd open a package or rip open a bag, pulling things out to inspect them carefully. Then sometimes she'd pause, staring blankly at the ceiling, murmuring something I couldn't hear. Around 3 a.m., the strange things started happening. The lights flickered overhead, casting long, jagged shadows. I heard faint tapping noises on the ceiling, like fingers drumming an erratic rhythm. I told myself it was the old building settling. But then the paging system broke to life, crackling to broadcast a message on repeat that chilled me. Leave now, before it's too late. The woman vanished from the aisles. I checked the cameras. She wasn't anywhere I could see. Yet carts rolled slowly past empty aisles, and in the grainy security feed, a dark, flickering shape seemed to follow the camera's path, never fully visible, like a half-formed shadow. I grabbed my flashlight and went to look for her. The store felt like a maze in the dim glow, aisles stretching endlessly, the air thick and cold. As I passed the glass freezer doors, I saw her reflection, pale, wide-eyed, mouthing words that weren't hers. Then, right behind me, soft and wet, came a breath. Not human, it seemed, cold like frost on bare skin. I spun around, flashlight shaking. Nothing was there. Heart racing, I made my way to the exit, only to find the door locked, the keypad dead. I was trapped. The tapping came again, louder this time, coming from the darkness between the shelves. Step by slow step. Then a soft voice whispered from the overhead speaker, "Help me." I chased the sound to the electronics aisle, where a display screen flickered violently, showing static. Then, for a moment, a face. Her face. Desperate, haunted, pleading. I don't remember how, but I found the emergency exit door manual release in the stockroom. Bursting outside into the cold night air was like breaking free from a nightmare. I never saw the woman again, and the store manager never mentioned her. The only proof was a few hours of empty footage with a flickering shadow, endless aisles that seemed to stretch impossibly, and the weight of a presence that had never left. Occasionally, late at night when I run errands past midnight, I find myself glancing at the Walmart, the one that wears silence like a second skin, wondering if some lost souls still wander those aisles, lost in the quiet, waiting for someone to listen. I took the overnight shift at the Walmart off the highway because I thought the quiet would be honest. Aisles like runways, everything labeled and numbered, fluorescent lights scrubbed so clean it felt like truth. For a week, it was routine. The floor scrubber's slow hymn, the click of price guns, blue vests like docile flags, and a radio that only crackled for pallet calls. On night 8, the radio said, in a flat voice, "Attention associates, please return all hearts to the fitting rooms." I stood in seasonal with out-of-place Valentine stock, box cutter in hand. Static. Then cheerier. "Correction, carts. Please return all carts to the front." I laughed at myself and wheeled a dolly to grocery. Little things wandered. A line of bleach slid 2 tiles left. An end cap rebuilt itself while I blinked. Rollback stickers appeared where no markdowns were scheduled. Smiley faces slapped over full-price tags like someone was smothering numbers. At 2 a.m., my inventory gun flashed an impossible date, July 17th, 2041, vibrated once like it had a heartbeat, then returned to normal. I decided it was a system hiccup. That's what management would say. That's what we say to everything we can't survive. The intercom changed too. Instead of chirpy promos, it sighed, as if the store itself waited for me to speak. A whisper got lost under static, and every freezer door along aisle 24 fogged at once, thick as breath on glass. The convex domes lagged my reflection until my reflection stopped waving back. Automotive smelled like rubber and rain. I found 4 tires stacked like a dark wedding cake, receipt spikes pushed into the sidewalls as if someone tried to pin time. Names I didn't know. Dates from years before this location existed. "Thank you for your service," One read, in neat blue pen. In garden, the greenhouse glass tapped softly like a nail against a jar. On the inside, condensation drew letters, S-T-A-Y. The handwriting was careful, childish, and stern. No customers are allowed at night, but I heard a cart's gummy squeak. At self-checkout, green lights pulsed like fireflies. A screen woke on its own. Scan your first item, it chirped, then spat a long, empty receipt. Instead of "Thank you for shopping at Walmart," the bottom said, "This transaction cannot be voided." On night 15, the clock-in terminal blinked red, then green, like deciding if I deserved to exist. Camera 4, fitting rooms, showed a child in a red shirt with his back to the lens. His shoulders rose in small breaths. When I got there, the room smelled of dryer sheets and rain. Hundreds of empty hangers clicked as if fingers had just let go. "Code Adam," the intercom said, not waiting for confirmation. "Code Adam, Code Adam." In the manager's office, the same framed posters smiled too wide. An old TV looped a training video I'd never seen, captions skipping. Someone with my build straightened displays and nodded at a customer with no face. The captions read, in brackets, "Applause, applause, applause." The emergency exit by electronics bit my palms and didn't twitch. The alarm light blinked like it was trying to speak. The keypad pulsed red. When my head rested on the door, cold metal hissed, "Authorized personnel only." If it hadn't been steel, I'd have sworn it was a mouth. I stopped sleeping. I hid a notebook between vacuum boxes and wrote everything down, hoping ink could fix elastic things. The more I wrote, the more the store answered. Overhead banners changed when I wasn't looking. Save money, live better, became count better, leave later. Some letters were blacked out, but the marker left no scent, no smear. On night 22, I met it, in hardware, a tall silhouette in a blue vest that wasn't ours. The badge was old, the name rubbed away. Its arms were too long, hands full of white shelf labels that fluttered like moths. It didn't walk. It flowed. I blinked. It stood 10 feet closer. "Associate," it said in my onboarding voice. "Welcome. We knew you'd be a good fit." "Who are you?" I asked. It tilted its head like a greeter recognizing a regular. "Inventory," it said. My handheld, forgotten in my pocket, vibrated hard, hungry. The screen lit with a cycle count. The item description was my name. I ran. Through housewares, past personal care where shampoo bottles stared like 100 polished eyes. Past bakery where the ovens were cold and still breathing. The intercom laughed until it broke into dial-up screech. At receiving, the latch gave an inch, no more. Outside, headlights swept across glazed windows without cars to throw them. Now I keep my journal in the claims cage, under a tarp that smells like old rain. I write on return slips and shelf labels. I clock in. I don't always clock out. The intercom says my name, sweet as any friendly associate. "Break time," it croons. "Take your 15. It always adds, "We'll hold your place." I'm not crazy, and neither is the store. Walmart counts everything, boxes, hours, units per hour. Lately it counts steps and breath and how often you answer when it calls you by name. If the garden glass spells a word, don't trace it. If self-checkout greets you first, don't reply. If the tall thing lifts a label toward your chest, don't let it stick. Labels are permanent. Inventory never really goes missing. The rollback smile isn't smiling at you, it's smiling with you. And the scanner already knows your price.